Yes.
Uh,
Okay, yeah, I got the prompt. Yep.
okay, good. Recording
Thank
has
you.
started.
Yeah, so
No
so
problem.
those of you who are on the line, we'd like to share this recording with you. If you'd like to hear it after the fact, it may be nice to go back and reference it. And we just had another person join us here in the council at Council of Governments. Hi, this is Kimberly Toe with the COG. And she's
Hello.
in our communications group. Yes, I am on the marketing team. So I believe we're ready to get started.
Okay,
If you all are.
very good. One comment before starting. If it's all right with you, I think the best maybe is that I give the walkthrough. You may want to take some notes if you want more information on anything, and maybe at the end we have yeah, sometimes for questions, and we can go back to any part of the demo that you're more interested in. But if it's all right with you, that procedure, then
Sounds like a
we
great
can start.
idea.
Okay, very good. Glad to hear. I'm already sharing the screen with you, so you're seeing the new 511 DFW website. And before getting into detail, seeing the new features that it has, the new enhancements, there are three general enhancements that stand out, which are the fact that now we have an interface that is map centric and responsive, and that supports the Spanish language. So when I'm saying that the interface is map centric, is because we're going to be having the map very present at all times, being able to do things like look for something and get it centered and zoomed, and to do trips between 2 points like this. We'll get into detail later about the trip planner, for example, see how it works. But just giving an example of, we say it's map centric because um, we do plenty of things using the map at all times. And when I said that the new website is responsive, it's because you know that nowadays many users access the internet websites on their mobile devices, either tablets or mobile phones. So since the beginning, from the beginning of our design, we've been taking into account this fact. So we've designed elements that change their shape, their position, they resize to fit different sizes of a screen. So when we're using a mobile phone, things are resized so they fit on on a phone, and when we're using tablets, same thing. The elements can move around and resize it, so it's not only a desktop website, but a website that works in mobile devices. That's why we say it's responsive. And regarding the language support, we're still translating the website, but I can show a couple of examples. If I click on Español, the layers, now for example, tráfico, incidentes, construcción, they are translated to Spanish. Or I'm going to do a very quick trip, the one I had before. And still, we're still translating, for example, a button to say detalles, but I can show already, for example, how the instructions, the directions are in Spanish, and it's fully functional like in the English version. meaning that we can click on them and center the map. So that's an example of how the user interface is getting translated to support Spanish. Going back to English. And now that we've seen these three general enhancements, I can get into more detail and start seeing features little by little. So the first thing that I'm going to do is opening here this layer component, and I'm going to be selecting, let's say, incidents, construction, and special events. So now that I've selected a few layers, we are able to see icons representing those events located on the map. And we can click on them and read in a bubble the description of, in this case, the incident, accident on airport, freeway, and with the last update. Same applies for other events such as construction. First we have, if we hover, we get a tooltip, and if we click, we get a bubble with information related to the event itself. And we don't have currently special events, so that's why they're not displaying. We have a separated layer that it's the waste events layer. In general, we tend to have a lot of waste events. So it makes sense that we have it in a different layer so we can enable and disable it. And the way it works is very similar to any other event in the sense that we can go, click, and read the description telling this is report by waste and description of the event. And as said, it's another layer, so I can turn it off at any time. We can do any combination we want with layers. So we've seen events, and now I'm going to be using the traffic speeds layer. For traffic speeds, an enhancement in this version is that we're, as you see here in this legend, we're using patterns. So we don't rely just in color to differentiate the ranges of speed. We're using patterns that help colorblind users to notice the difference between them, and this is because one of the objectives since the beginning has been trying to make this website the most accessible, the more accessible, the better. So these are the patterns that we use for speeds, for traffic speeds. I'm going to change now into Hov lanes. Again, we're using not only colors but also patterns for the links, for the speeds of the links. More layers that we can see here. Devices like cameras, plenty of cameras, as you can see. Going to zoom in a little bit. And similar as with any layer and event, if we go and hover, we have a tooltip, and if we click, a bubble gets open. This time, instead of a description, what we see is the last snapshot available from the camera. That was cameras. I'm going to zoom out again. And I'm going to enable enable message signs. Okay, message signs. Going to zoom in here. We have, just by hovering, we can read the messages that we're displaying in the message signs. If there's no message, the icon already is slightly different to mark this fact, and we can see that it says no current message. And I'm going to be showing a few more as example. This is a VMS with 3 lines. Even more lines here. So it's an easy way to see the current signaling in the system. All right, so that was message signs. More radar overlay. Okay.
It is nice and sunny here. You might have to zoom out.
Probably I'm zooming out. Let's see. Don't we have any any cloud here?
Definitely
Not
up here.
today. Not today.
Go northeast, maybe. I mean,
well, here we definitely have.
should be pretty nasty.
Yeah. Yeah. You see that we're having the radar, but quite far from the Dallas-Fort Worth region, actually. But all right, is there? And I'm going to zoom in again because if not, we're not gonna see the parking, which is the next layer. We have some parking lots near Richardson in US 75. By hovering, we get the available spaces and the capacity of the parking. We can click on them for more information. We have it graphically, which are the available stops and how many are currently occupied, etc. Address, capacity. I believe we don't have, at least last time we checked, we didn't have any transit construction or transit incidents. Anyway, it's similar. The way it works is very similar to any other event layer in the sense that you can go over, click, get the bubble, read the description. So going to be moving already into rail and bus stops. Let's start by rail. In rail, we're seeing 3 things here. We have color lines, which are the actual route that the train takes, and the dots, the color dots that are moving, are positions of the trains. And I'm going to click on a railroad. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have much information to display, but just to show how similar it is to any other element in the user interface. Like you go, you click, get the bubble, read the information about either the event or in this case, the the rail stop. So that was rail. And now bus stops. We have different organizations. Gonna choose DART. Now that I'm in Dallas, DART and Route 11, we should see a few bus stops. Okay, going to zoom in. And let's click on one of these bus stops to see something about them. So that's a route. Don't have a prediction right now available, but either we see the expected or the schedule. Yeah, Eric. I think Eric was saying something, but I couldn't hear it. I don't know if I have some network issue. Eric, did you say something? You can use the chat also.
I think.
Yeah, hi. Get to the routes for the bosses. I couldn't see it. I guess it's lower.
Eric, I'm gonna have to ask you if you can use a chat for
Zoom on.
Okay.
Then come back bus.
Yeah, I couldn't really hear that question since it's the sound is.
Hey, Juan, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, the question had to do with showing the bus stops.
Okay.
Can you show it how you do that?
Sure. Okay, so what I did first, I went to select the bus stop layers, and then I went to choose one of the organizations, or I could take everything. But what I did is choose Dart, and then I clicked on the first route. I could have started writing something so it gets filtered. And yeah, that's the way to look for a route and to display the stops that belong to that route.
Eric, that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Oh, great. Awesome. Thank you, Ahmad. For some reason, yeah, the sound was very clear. Yeah, I don't know if we had some connection issues. So hopefully you're hearing me well, and this is getting recorded accordingly. So
you're hearing fine.
Good.
No problem.
Okay, very good, very good. Then we can move on to the last layers that we have. Well, weather alerts. We're not receiving weather alerts currently, so I'm not clicking that one. Weather forecast. I believe we're going to be doing changes to this. However, well, there's already some weather forecast here displayed, but I believe this is either we're getting it from another source, or in any case, currently, yes, we're showing current and what we expect. And well, that's layers. We've been showing a good amount of layers. So we started the layers by showing incidents, constructions, special events. They were here on the map, but that's not the only way to see events. That's events located on the map, but we can also see them on a tabular form in a table. And this is the event list. And we have here filters. So we can filter, for example, that we want to see only incidents, and construction then is gone, and this is just incidents. Or we could go filter, let's see, by city, for example, by city, and I can choose Frisco there. And now we're displaying only events that belong to Frisco. And that's we can also change, how they are sort. And we have here a search, so sometimes it's even easier if you want just one city and you know the name, you can just type it and it's filtering also. Or for example, we could use the description. I could be writing here Waze, and now everything we see here are Waze alerts. So that's another way to customize the view in the event list. And it has pages, and we saw the filter, we saw the sorting. We can show different numbers of rows per page, etc. And that was the event list. And the next button we have here is a social network. So we're displaying the last tweets available in the 511 DFW Twitter account. They get displayed automatically, and similar with Facebook, last posts in Facebook are displayed here. There's currently only one, but there were more, would be displayed here. And a social network, contact. So this contact us window allow users to report bugs, give suggestions, and in general it's feedback about the website. So they can write their email, choose any topic, it could be a bug, a complaint, information request, suggestion, write their comments, and by typing the captcha and clicking submit, we will get the feedback from users. So this is used to communicate with them. And we can move on into my 511 already. So if you're familiar with my 511 from the previous website, this is the part that it's personalized. So each user can create their own account and create their trips to get alerts on them in certain schedules. They can have a list of cameras they're interested in, a list of DMSs. So what we were seeing till now, it was very general, like give me all events, give me all. And now we get into something particular, customized for each user. I created one account before starting, so I'm gonna type my password here, and I can log in and see already the things here. So these are the trips that I've so far created. I can go edit and, for example, delete one trip, or I can change the order. I prefer to have this one at the beginning, or do additions. I could get here and change anything about the trip. In this demo, what I would like to start by creating one, a new one. So I'm going to create a trip with driving times, transit, and alerts, everything. And I'm going to call it from home to sports. And I think we had one question from Tom. I read an email by Marian a few minutes before starting this demo, where there was this question about, what about writing the origin and the destination? How is it going to work in the new My 511? So, by the way, I'm not choosing sports because I want something that makes sense. I'm gonna put fun. Didn't we have fun here? Fun. Okay. So I can either start typing or choose something on the map. With a right click, I could say origin. That's the origin already. Don't have to type anything. But if I prefer, I could write here Dada Zoo And with the autocomplete, quite easy to fill the destination field also. And as you see, we have different options. We can exclude toll roads or freeways. We can select if we want in order by fastest route or the shortest route. And this is the way I can create a trip. As I didn't mark exclude tolls. Well, it's offering one route with tolls. And I can choose which is going to be my default route. This is important because the default route is the first that gets played in IVR when we call the phone system. So it's not that it's going to be the only one. No, we're going to get the list, but it will be played always in the first position. So I'm going to choose that one as my default. And if you remember that at the beginning we chose to add transit, we can select a carrier and a line and add it. So we will get also alerts on that transit line, on that agency. And speaking of alerts, I may want to be alerted as it's going from home to the zoo. I'm going to say only weekend and during certain times of the day. I'm going to put 9:30 to 11:30. And I want just alerts on email. So this is very configurable. That's what the purpose of this part of the demo is show how we can configure what we want to receive. Even things like saying, what are we going to consider a traffic delay? Well, I can say that if it's 30% more than the usual, or the usual, or the post speed limit, let's say, if it's 30% more the time that it takes to get there, then I want to be alerted. And that way, on is a new trip that I created at the beginning. I'm done. And that's the way we create a new trip. And we're going to be following the same or very similar procedure for the other parts of My 511. We now move into cameras, and again, edit, can delete a camera, and I can create a new one. And again, we can filter and choose a camera from a list, but I can also click choose from map and add directly the camera or to make it more convenient. And let's see, I'm gonna put it a demo camera 1. It's going to be then the name that I'm gonna assign to the camera. And there it is, our new camera. So as you see, similar in the sense that first we edit, then we add, fill the form, accept, and we get the new element in our list. And pretty much same thing for message signs. I already had one here in my list. I could go and add another one, either from selecting from this tree, from this list, or by choosing one from the map. Like the good thing of choosing from the map is that you're actually seeing the message that is being displayed right now, if it helps. And I can also put a nickname. This time I'm going to leave it blank. And as you see, it got the name by default. And here we have it, our new message sign in the list. So this is my 511. We're close to the 30 minutes that I expected. We still have the route planner. I'm going to log out from my 511 and let's have a look on the route planner. At the beginning of the demo, I already showed very quickly the route planner, but we didn't got into much detail. So now I'm going to create one trip here. Okay. Here we are, our new trip. We have two different routes offered here. We can get into the details of any of them. And you see that by hovering, I see it's taking 19 minutes, and that's the length of the route. I could have chosen in the options to exclude the toll roads. If we exclude the toll roads, that route taking the Dallas North Tollway is no longer offered here. And also we could add an additional destination. Let's see. Now, instead of from point A to point B, is from point A to point B and then to point C. So that's an example of the feature, the trip planner. And here between these 2 points, you see that by default I've been asking for driving directions, but I could have chosen transit, and in that case the results are letting me know which are the buses that I could be taking and how long it would take me to get there, with explanations that include not only taking the transit but also walk between the stops. And in a similar fashion, this is walking. Actually, almost 6 hours and a half, so I'm not really sure about walking, but okay, good to know. And let's try the biking directions. Okay, 143, yeah, faster. And very similar to the driving directions in the sense that we get details, and if we click on the details, the map gets centered, zooming, etc. And to finish with this, I want to show a few things still under development. Things like, for example, this menu here. We're adding elements to this menu. We have a FAQ. Right now it's just a placeholder, but gives an idea of what we're going to have here. And speaking of placeholders, same applies to this yellow bar that we have here to display alerts that are seen in the whole website. These alerts can be closed and open again by clicking on the alert icon. So that's ready there. The more placeholders we have for liking in Facebook, for following in Twitter. Actually, one thing that is no longer a placeholder, but it's a real thing itself, it's Arlo, the armadillo that gives a current air quality index. I've seen it great today. If we click on it, it leads to the Air North Texas website, and it's actually great there too. So, so it's changing. I've seen it's changing the color because it's linked to the actual thing already. And I think with this, you already have a pretty good overview of the current status of the website and in what direction we're moving and what our objectives are. So I think we could start with questions, if any. So what do you think?
This is Karen Conway over at LBJ and North Sharon Express.
Hello, Karen.
I have a question regarding the traffic speeds that you showed at the very beginning.
Okay.
And the question I have is, what speeds are you showing? Are you showing the speeds for the general purpose lanes? And the reason I ask is because of the express lanes running in the middle.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first thing is that we're differentiating between the highways and the arterials, because what can be slow in a highway on a street can be fast, actually. So we're taking into account that fact. And what we're showing, it's in fact these groups of what we consider light, moderate, and heavy. But checking what's the speed limit of the actual road, and depending on that speed limit, we do the calculation of, all right, this is heavy, or this is moderate, or this is light. So it's not fixed. It's not a range that is fixed. It's relative to the speed limit of the facility, of the road.
Okay, so if I'm understanding, you're calculating the speed on both the general purpose lanes as well as the express lanes, and that's what you're showing as whether it's light, moderate, or heavy?
When we're speaking of express lines, maybe
Karen, can I take this question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One, like if you go zoom out a little bit and go north on I-35.
Is it
Basically, Karen, the way we display the lanes is like we receive this data from here, and each of the lanes that are marked come with a speed limit, and we kind of aggregate in the sense we look at the speed limit on the line, and then we calculate, we display these light, moderate, and heavy based on the percentage of the speeds. Speed limit, speed versus the speed limit. And the lines that you are seeing on the highway are both general purpose lanes and also the express lanes. But as you zoom in on one of those highways, you will see different lane configuration for I-635, for example. Further north.
Okay, I'm showing right now US 75 that has
No,
different lanes, but
go to 635 further north.
Okay.
I really think, Ranjit, I think one thing to add is that it really depends on the here roadway definition, right? I mean, here data being, used to be NAVTEC, we basically are using their roadway definition. So if they define the express lanes as, say, an additional facility or roadway, that would show up as an alternate lane configuration or roadway configuration on the map here. And that's what you're looking at right now.
Well, this is Ahmad. One actually was showing you US 75 that had HOV lanes, and at one point we were getting both the speed on the HOV lane separate from the speed on the general purpose lane, and that's how you see it being displayed. And then, as Joe mentioned, we are using here data. So if here doesn't provide that kind of a differentiation, we have the ability to also use any other sources of data and use that. So if on LBJ you have better reliable speed that differentiate by the type, certainly that can be provided and work with and serve the purpose of differentiating between the two.
Ahmad was mentioning the Hov Laying Layer, and yes, we have them as a separate layer from the regular traffic speed layer. This is an example of it. All right. Any other topic that we want to talk about today?
Karen, did that answer your question?
Yes and no. Still trying to process. And I guess if this is going to be used by drivers to access information, how would they know? And I'm sorry, I'm more focused on our lanes, but how would they know the difference? Because it could be rush hour, and the general purpose lanes on 35E or 635 could be showing red, but then the express lanes could be, technically green. And I'm just wondering, you've got HOV lanes pulled out as a separate layer. I'm just wondering if there is perhaps some thought to adding express lanes as its own layer, so you can see them separated out, and for that, driver doesn't even realize that there is another alternative to their commute.
Is HERE providing that data differently from location to location, or is it seems like maybe it's not consistent? I'm just wondering if you can give us a synopsis on what HERE is providing.
I'm sorry. Are you asking me the question
No, I'm sorry. I was asking Capsh if they can explain what HERE is providing, so we can see if there's other data that we may need, and perhaps we need to look into how we could get that.
Well, let me ask Marianne. I'm sorry. Before we go forward, maybe I'm confused, but from the diagram that I'm seeing, which just went away.
Sorry.
please put it back.
Okay,
and
ma'am.
It shows the 635. It showed 4 speed lines, 2 external and 2 internal, with different color coding. And, there are green outside and yellow inside. Maybe I'm wrong, but isn't the green outside shows the general purpose 635, and the yellow inside shows the express lanes?
No, Ahmad, the yellow is the service road and the green is the actual 635 general purpose lanes. We do not have that express lanes. I'm looking at just by looking at this. Initially, there was we never moved these 635 links to show up on the actual lanes. These were brought up from the previous project.
So my bad. So then we need to, from what I hear, definitely we need to add lines for express lanes. And at the same time, the question I believe Marianne asked is, does HERE provide us that data separately or not?
I don't think they provide it separately, but we'll have to look at the toll roads and maybe how does a separate layer for toll roads is it something that we should consider, or?
Yeah, if we can reach out to HERE and find out if that's available, first of all, and if it's not, I'm sure there's some other way that we can get that speed data.
Yeah, and one more thing is, I know I-35 express lanes is a managed lane. I believe morning rush hour it goes southbound, and evening it goes northbound. And that information is also we will look for that information as well from HERE, if it is available from them.
Yeah, we also have reversible lanes in the center of I-30.
Yes.
east of Dallas.
That is correct, yeah.
So there's several places where we need to kind of investigate this. It's great that Karen brought this up because this is good timing for us to look into that.
I was just going to add, this is Karen again, there's also reversible express lanes from 635 onto the HOV lanes on 75.
Thank you.
You bet.
Perhaps you have all of the locations of those, or is that something that we need to, and I'm not sure how we're going to show the direction, but I'm sure there must be some way that we can do that when we have reversible lanes that are using the same pavement for one direction or another.
Karen, if I may ask, do you by any chance have a GIS layer of the express lanes in the DFW area? So we can try and see if we can map it to the existing here data.
I'm going to assume so.
Okay.
So seems like if we manage to get that information either from here or from any other source, in the end, we will be doing like we do with any road with different lanes that we display. Each lane may have different colors, so it's more a question of where we're getting that data, but the way to display the speed information is this one we've described.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we as CAPTCH need to look into the data set that we're getting from here to find out how they differentiate between express and general purpose lanes and make sure that data is available. And also, if we can maybe get some information regarding a GIS layer from Karen to see if we can map that data from here to our data set as well. Just to recap.
Good.
So can we have a separate layer for that, like instead of like traffic speed, HOV, and then it has express lane, like separate each one, or is something that have to be combined?
Well, I mean, we did the same thing for HOV versus general purpose, right? So it's it's something that we can certainly look at doing.
Is this just a matter of how much you zoom in to see the different speeds?
Actually, the HOV lane, it's completely different. I mean, and if we don't mark the HOV lane layer, it's not displayed. That's why. Well, yes, there's always the possibility of having another thing like that, but just for Express. It's a bit like what we did with Waze, that we had the events in a separate layer, so we can turn them on and and off and differentiate easier. That's always a possibility.
I think that those reversible lanes were initially included in this data set, right, Ranjit? I remember talking about that many years ago, like with Ravi or whatever.
Yeah, the I-30. I don't think 635 was added recently or in the past few years.
Yeah,
but I-30 during the inception of a project, I think we talked about it.
Yeah.
And I believe those are marked as Dart HOV managed lanes. That like HOV/managed lanes is what we used to call them.
Yep.
So what are our various options? I don't know that we want to have so many different layers. Maybe we could have a layer that's general purpose, and of course arterials and frontage roads probably go together. and then we could have another layer that is for the others, like all the express lanes, the HOV, the managed lanes, the reversible lanes. Does that make sense to anyone, or?
And do you want the toll roads separated as well, or do you want us to include them as the special other types, Ariane?
I'm not sure why we would want to separate the toll roads out necessarily, because you know, they don't really, the footprint is very different usually for them. What are other people's thoughts on that? It's not probably something we would want to decide today, but something that we need to get some input on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Marion, one thing to mention is maybe we want to keep this as an agenda item for later this week, because the question we have right now is we don't really know and right now collectively whether we get that data separately from here or not to be able to actually discern those express lanes from the general purpose lanes. And if we don't get that data and we separate it, it's just going to be gray. So maybe we can just take it as an action item and for follow-up.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, because we'll want to find out if there's other information, if, you know, maybe there's other locations as well. And then as new express lanes are added, because there's a lot of construction going on in the region, you know, we'll need to make a decision that's going to affect all of these. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we consider the alternatives and come up with the best way.
Yep.
So Karen, if it turns out that we are not able to get the separate information on speeds from here, is that something that you might be able to help us with?
Sure, or at least put you guys with the correct department that can get it for us. But that's not, I'm sure there is someone on their side that could assist with that information as well. And I'm talking about their express lanes.
Okay. Yeah, so we may, if HERE doesn't provide it, we may need to pull it from various entities. But if HERE provides it, that would probably be the simplest way to receive the data and to integrate it.
Sure. Great.
I have another question, actually a question about a different item. Is there more discussion on this that we should cover? Okay, one of my question that I was going to ask is more about transit and trip planning.
Okay.
As far as trip planning is concerned, I think we now have we have DART information. We have information for Trinity Metro as far as their schedule and their routes. This is the static data. And then if we don't, we soon will have DCTA's static and route data. Does that information, does that allow our trip planner to have a commuter able to use information from various agencies together? In other words, are they integrated in the trip planner, or will they be integrated in the trip planner? So if I'm making a trip that's using more than one transit agency's resources, I would be able to do that.
Good question. I think we're all kind
of
waiting to respond.
Actually, I think the way we are generating the transit routes right now is we pass on the origin and destination, and we rely on HERE to give us the best route. Along with that, we are also including any any transit-related incidents or events that the agencies enter in our system, in the eco traffic, in the 5-in-1 DFW system, they will also be part of the route that is suggested by here. Not necessarily the trip planner does not consider the actual schedule or estimated duration that is coming from the agencies. Joe, correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, I think you're good.
Does that answer the question, Marian?
Yeah, I think it answers the question, but is that something, I mean, if we have their information, do we need to provide that to here so that they can integrate that into their trip planning tool?
From what I know is like here also uses the GTFS information coming from these agencies, and it will be the same data that we receive or that we have.
Okay, so they should be able to use information from any of those 3 transit agencies.
That is correct.
Marian, if your question has been answered, there's something I've noticed here. I remember that you asked the other day about roadside assistance, where to put it, if we had any suggestion, or where to show what the number is. I don't know if you want to ask further about the previous topic, but whenever you're ready, I can show you something regarding that.
Yeah, let's look at that now, and we'll see what comments we have.
Yeah, because I noticed I started by layers, so I missed opening announcements here. Not that we have anything being announced right now, but I have here one mockup that could be useful. So you see that's an example of an announcement. And the other day when I was saying maybe we could have road assistance with a number as one of these announcements, the way I was envisioning it was right here. So just as a suggestion, so and also to show next time we're referring to announcement is that feature that we have there.
I guess one thing I'm thinking about is if somebody's a current user and then they see that announcement, that's great. But let's say that somebody hasn't used the system before.
Yeah.
And after it's no longer a new item, we probably don't want to keep the announcement up there. Would it make sense to have another icon for roadside assistance?
I would say that adding here buttons, it's something that we should avoid, but just because I said at the beginning, we want this to work well in mobile devices. The screens are very small, so having more than 6 buttons makes it a bit difficult or a bit more uncomfortable to use. So that's why I try to fit the roadside assistance in one of the currently existing elements. I suggested announcements. We can keep looking at it, give more suggestions. But I thought that it was good that now that we're sharing the screen and we're looking at the same time at the website, just to remind, this is the announcement area. This can be used for several purposes, and yeah, we have it.
I guess one thought that I have is if let's say that I'm using this site for a year, and then one day when I have the site up, I need it because my car is disabled and I need to be able to request assistance.
Okay.
Is this something you envision would be up there permanently, and then it has to be closed by the user so that they don't take up real estate on the map for it? Is it something that would be open all the time, or just when this is a new feature?
It can definitely be closed, but depending on the contents of the announcements, it might be the right way to go, what you were describing, like it gets open directly when accessing the website. My only concern about that would be, what if the road assistance is the third item? Can be easily missed, right? So, okay, either we make it the first, or right, yes, maybe we have to look for something even more that stands out even more. So a user getting into the website sees first thing.
Yeah, we talked about also including it in the FAQs, which I think is a good idea to include it there also. But I think we need to have a way that it's going to be easy to find. And again, if somebody's used to this and they've seen it many times, they know that feature exists. But as we start having more and more new users come on because of our marketing campaign and communication work, then we want to make sure that people are going to know about this.
Okay.
Yeah, one other thought was to have it as a separate page right under the links, various links. We'll have a just like agencies or something. We will have a roadside assistance, and as user clicks on it, it'll open the contact details for each of these roadside assistance agencies.
Yes, the pop-up on the app. How would this look if we were looking at the app? Do we have the same view?
Well, one thing, let's differentiate here two things. One thing is the app that you download in your phone, and it's an application, and you don't go to your web browser, you go directly to your application. Like, I don't know, like downloading the Facebook app, let's say. But there's also the possibility of opening your browser, Chrome or Safari, and
Marian, if you are looking at, like if you have your smartphone handy, you can just type the ppweb.511dfw.org on your mobile browser.
That website.
You'll be able to see
that URL.
As opposed to the app.
Yes.
Correct. I'm thinking of examples. I said Facebook. Another example, Gmail. You can go into your Gmail account using your browser, or you can download the Gmail application and have it.
Yeah, I'm just looking for ways to make sure that people can, one, know about the new feature if they're already a user, and then if they're not, how do we make sure that people who are new users know about it? And then if somebody doesn't really pay attention because they don't need it, hopefully they will remember having seen it. But then if we have somebody who becomes a new user 6 months after our marketing campaign, then how do we make sure that they know about it? Because that's a feature that is, we want to make sure that people know about this, because we have had some really serious consequences to disabled motorists who didn't know how to get help. So we want to make sure that this is something people can find. So we don't have to decide that today, but I'm looking for suggestions from all of you on the call.
So Marion, any other questions?
I don't have other questions. Does anybody else on the line have questions?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate everybody's participation. And we will continue to discuss some of these items that we brought up, such as the managed lane speeds, and then the whether or not here provides that, and how to get that information, and so on.
Great.
Very good.
And one other question that I was going to ask just real quick about the colorblind patterns for transit. Since we have different colors of lines, the blue, red, green, etc., how are those displayed? Is there a way that maybe DART or the other agencies display that we can just copy so that it would be consistent with what they have on their website?
DART website does not have any patterns, Marion, and the colors we are showing is exactly how DART shows them on their system.
I think that maybe the reason why this works well without patterns, it's because we can also identify the different lines just because of the geographical location they have. It's different as with speeds, that the line is always in the same place and the color was the only thing changing. Now it's color and pattern. But here we can, yeah, definitely color can help, but it's easier to spot that this line is different to this line just because it's in a different geographical location.
So you're thinking probably we don't need that just because, let's say someone usually uses the blue line, they kind of know the blue line route?
Because they know probably that it's between Fort Worth and Dallas, and because they can also...
that is the Trinity line, yeah.
Yeah. That's the thought that I had. If we're seeing even the name of the line here when we hover on the different...
Yeah, so that looks like we don't really need to have anything coded then. Perfect.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Anything else?
Last minute question?
Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. And if you have questions, please follow up with either Eric or Capsh or me, and let us know what your follow-up questions are, and we'll make sure that we get some answers, and we'll be providing some further demonstrations of this as it continues in development.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.